the cowboy who recognized the tattoo and saved the Apache girl who once saved him. A wide stretch of dry land surrounded Daniel's ranch, where the wind moved slowly across tall grass and carried dust into the air. The ranch stood alone, far from the crowded parts of town, and most days passed quietly. Daniel preferred it that way. He woke early each morning before sunrise, brewed coffee over a small stove, and stepped outside to check the animals while the sky slowly turned from dark blue to soft gold base. His life followed a steady rhythm, simple and calm. But underneath that calm was a man shaped by memories he rarely shared. Best, he helped when needed, spoke respectfully, and avoided unnecessary trouble. Some believed he had always lived like that, but a few older residents remembered when he first arrived years ago. Back then he looked thinner, worn down, and carried a silence that felt heavier than usual. No one knew exactly what had happened to him before he settled there. Daniel never corrected their guesses, and over time curiosity faded into acceptance. He preferred the company of animals and open land rather than crowded conversations. Yet he watched everything carefully. He noticed weather patterns, changes in the wind, and even small shifts in people's behavior. That awareness came from experience. Years earlier, he had survived something that changed how he saw the world, though he kept the details locked away in his mind. On a warm afternoon, Daniel rode into town to gather supplies. The small street buzzed with quiet activity. A wagon rolled past carrying tools. Children ran near the storefronts, and shopkeepers stood outside greeting familiar faces. Daniel tied his horse near the general store and stepped down slowly, stretching his back after the ride. He nodded politely to those who greeted him, but avoided long conversations. As he walked toward the water trough, he noticed movement at the far end of the street. A small group of riders approached, guiding several travelers who looked tired and uncertain. Their clothes were dusty from long travel, and their faces showed exhaustion mixed with caution. The town had seen travelers before, but there was something different about this group. People began whispering quietly, watching from doorways as they passed. Daniel felt a subtle tension in the air. He paused near the trough, pretending to check the water while observing carefully. Among the travelers was a young Apache woman walking beside one of the horses. She moved with calm control, her steps steady despite clear fatigue. She did not seek attention, yet something about her presence drew his focus immediately. Her expression remained quiet, almost distant, as if she had learned to move through places without inviting questions. When she reached for water, she lifted her sleeve slightly. The movement revealed a small tattoo on her wrist, simple but distinct. The moment Daniel saw it, time seemed to slow. A memory rose from deep within him. A cold night in the mountains, pain spreading through his body, and the faint glow of a fire. He remembered a young girl kneeling beside him, wrapping cloth around his injured arm. He had been lost, weak, and certain he would not survive. Yet someone had stayed with him, guiding him through the darkness until he could stand again. That girl had worn the same symbol on her wrist. Daniel blinked, unsure whether he could trust his memory, passed since that night. Faces change, people change, and memories sometimes reshape themselves with time. Still, the feeling was strong, almost undeniable. He watched her carefully as she drank water, noticing small details. The way she scanned her surroundings without appearing nervous, the way she kept a respectful distance from others, and the quiet strength in her posture. But she seemed used to traveling through unfamiliar places where trust did not come easily. "The townspeople!" whispered among themselves. Some looked curious, others cautious. A few watched with narrowed eyes, unsure how to respond to newcomers they did not understand. Daniel recognized that look. He had seen it before, and he knew how quickly misunderstanding could grow into something worse. The travelers stopped near the center of town, speaking with a local man who seemed eager to take control of the situation. Daniel sensed tension in the conversation, the Apache woman standing slightly apart from the group, as if she preferred distance from the attention. A breeze lifted dust around her feet. For a brief moment, she looked toward Daniel. Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. Not recognition exactly, but awareness. She held his gaze calmly before looking away again. Daniel felt his heartbeat quicken. Could she truly be the same person who saved him years ago? The memory had always felt like a dream. Bad. He had searched for answers after recovering, but the mountains revealed nothing. Whoever helped him had disappeared without leaving a trace. Bass. He finished filling his canteen slowly, giving himself time to think. Approaching her directly felt risky. If he was wrong, he might create unnecessary confusion. If he was right, he did not know how she would react. Burst desk. Meanwhile, tension in town grew stronger. A few men began speaking loudly, questioning the traveler's presence. But Daniel heard fragments of their words. Concerns about safety, doubts about outsiders, and assumptions made without understanding. He felt frustration rise, but kept his expression calm. The Apache woman remained composed, though Daniel noticed her shoulders tightened slightly. She had likely faced similar situations before. Banned. Without fully deciding, Daniel found himself stepping forward. He walked toward the group slowly, careful not to appear confrontational. His goal was simple: to observe more closely and understand the situation before it worsened. As he approached, he noticed again the tattoo on her wrist. The shape matched perfectly with the memory he carried. His mind returned to that night in the mountains. Snow falling quietly, pain fading into darkness, and a calm voice telling him to stay awake. Ace. He had never forgotten that voice. Now he wondered if fate had brought them together again. The local man speaking with the travelers turned toward Daniel, recognizing him as a respected rancher. The tone of the conversation shifted slightly, as if his presence alone added balance. Daniel greeted them politely and offered water to anyone who needed it. His calm attitude helped ease the tension for a moment. The Apache woman watched him carefully, as though measuring his intentions. Daniel felt both hope and uncertainty. He wanted to ask her directly, but something told him to wait. Trust could not be rushed. Instead, he simply said the travelers were welcome to rest before continuing their journey. His voice remained steady, respectful, and neutral. Some townspeople nodded, while others remained skeptical. As the sun began to lower toward the horizon, long shadows stretched across the street. Daniel realized that whatever happened next might change more than just his quiet routine. Seeing the tattoo had reopened a chapter of his life he thought was closed. He stood there for a moment longer, watching as the travelers settled briefly to rest. The Apache woman sat near the edge of the group, her expression thoughtful but half. The golden light of evening touched her face, making the tattoo more visible again. Daniel took a slow breath. Deep inside, he felt certain that this meeting was not an accident. Years ago, someone had saved his life without expecting anything in return. Now, standing in front of her again, he sensed that his own path was about to change, and this time he would not walk away without understanding why. The wind moved through the town softly, carrying the sounds of quiet conversation and distant footsteps. Daniel turned slightly toward the fading sun, aware that the next choice he made could shape both of their futures. Daniel stood near the edge of the group, watching quietly while the travelers rested. The late afternoon light softened the dust in the air, and the sounds of town slowed as people finished their daily work. He tried to appear calm, but inside his thoughts moved quickly. The tattoo he had seen felt too familiar to ignore. Yet he did not want to assume something that might not be true. The Apache woman sat slightly apart from the others, her posture straight but relaxed. She held a small cup of water in both hands, drinking slowly as if careful not to waste a single drop. Daniel noticed how she watched the surroundings without seeming nervous. Her eyes moved calmly from person to person, studying everything quietly. He decided to approach gently. Moving too quickly could make her uncomfortable, and he did not want to create pressure. He walked forward, stopping at a respectful distance before speaking. His voice was calm when he greeted her, offering a simple introduction. She looked up at him, and for a moment neither spoke. There was a feeling of recognition in the silence, but it was mixed with uncertainty. She introduced herself as Tala. Her voice was soft but steady, and there was strength beneath her calm tone. Daniel nodded and told her his name. The moment felt simple on the surface, yet something deeper moved between them, like two people trying to remember a shared story that had faded with time. He offered her fresh water and asked if she needed food or rest. Tala thanked him politely but remained careful with her words. It was clear she had learned to be cautious around strangers. Daniel understood that trust takes time, especially for someone who had traveled far and faced unknown situations. Around them, the mood in town shifted. Some people watched from doorways with curiosity, while others whispered among themselves. A few men stood near the general store, speaking quietly, but often glancing toward the travelers. Daniel recognized the signs of growing tension. Small misunderstandings could easily turn into larger problems if not handled carefully. Trying to keep the conversation natural, Daniel mentioned that he owned a ranch outside town where there was space and quiet. He said travelers were welcome to rest there if they wished. Tala hesitated before answering. Her eyes searched his face as if trying to understand his true intentions. Why help us? She asked gently. Daniel paused, choosing his words carefully. He said that sometimes people simply needed a place to breathe after a long journey.
He did not mention his suspicion about her identity yet.
He felt it was better to allow trust to grow naturally rather than push her with questions. One of the local men approached, interrupting the calm moment. His tone carried doubt, and he spoke about keeping order in town. Though he did not say anything openly harsh, his words carried hidden judgment. Daniel remained calm and respectful, answering politely while making it clear that the travelers had done nothing wrong.
Tala watched the exchange closely.
She seemed surprised that Daniel spoke in their defense without hesitation. The tension faded slightly as the man stepped away, but the atmosphere remained uncertain. After a short while, Tala agreed to ride with Daniel to his ranch, along with a few others from the group who wanted rest. The decision felt important, though neither of them spoke about it openly. As they prepared to leave town, Daniel saddled his horse slowly, giving Tala space while staying close enough to offer help if needed. They began the ride just as the sun started to sink behind the hills. The sky turned warm shades of orange and gold, and long shadows stretched across the ground. For a while they rode in silence. The rhythm of hooves against the earth created a calm sound that filled the space between them. Daniel's mind returned to the memory of the mountains. He remembered waking to pain, seeing a small fire, and a young girl who refused to leave his side. He remembered her quiet determination, how she spoke little but acted with confidence. The memory felt distant yet clear enough to make his heart beat faster. Finally, he decided to speak.
Years ago, he said slowly, I was lost in the mountains after an accident.
Someone helped me survive. I never learned her name. Beck. Tala did not answer immediately. She kept her eyes on the horizon as if thinking carefully about what to say. The silence stretched long enough for Daniel to wonder if he had made a mistake by bringing it up. After a while, she asked gently, "Did you find your way home?" "Yes," he replied, "because someone showed me how to keep going." Tala nodded slightly but did not say more. Her response felt thoughtful, almost guarded. Daniel realized she might be testing his sincerity before revealing anything. The land around them grew quieter as they moved farther from town. The open sky and distant hills created a peaceful feeling. Daniel felt a sense of relief away from the whispers and watchful eyes of the townspeople. When they reached the ranch, Tala looked around slowly. The buildings were simple but well cared for. Horses moved calmly in the pasture, and the evening air carried the scent of hay and wood smoke. Daniel dismounted and offered to show everyone where they could rest. As night approached, he prepared a simple meal. Tala watched how he worked, noticing his steady movements and quiet focus. She began helping without being asked, handling tools and supplies with confidence that surprised him. They shared food around a small fire. Conversation remained light, mostly about the journey and the changing weather. Daniel noticed how Tala listened more than she spoke, but when she did speak, her words were thoughtful and clear. Later, when others went to rest, Daniel sat near the fire alone. Tala approached quietly and sat across from him. The firelight reflected in her eyes, and for a moment the world felt very still.
"You said someone helped you," she said softly.
"Why does it matter now?" Daniel took a deep breath. "Because I never thanked her," he said honestly.
"And I always wondered what became of her." Tala looked at the fire for a long time. Her expression softened slightly, though she still seemed cautious.
She asked him more about the accident, listening carefully as he described the storm, the injury, and the feeling of being lost. As he spoke, he noticed something change in her eyes, a quiet recognition that grew stronger with each detail. Yet she did not confirm anything directly. Instead, she said, "Sometimes people help others because it is the right thing to do, not because they expect to be remembered." Daniel nodded, understanding the meaning behind her words. He realized that pushing for answers might break the fragile trust forming between them. The night grew colder, and the fire burned lower. The ranch felt peaceful compared to the tension in town, but Daniel sensed that challenges were not finished. He knew the whispers he heard earlier might follow them here. Still, sitting across from Tala, he felt a quiet certainty growing inside him. Whether she admitted it or not, he believed she was the one who saved him years ago. And now, as fate brought them together again, he felt a strong desire to protect her. Not out of obligation, but out of deep respect for the kindness she once showed him. The stars appeared slowly overhead, filling the sky with soft light. Neither of them spoke for a while. The silence felt comfortable rather than empty, like two people standing at the beginning of a long story they were only starting to understand. Daniel watched the fire fade and wondered how their paths would unfold from here. He sensed that the journey ahead would test both of them, but for the first time in years he did not feel alone. The morning sun rose slowly over the ranch, painting the land in soft golden light. Daniel woke earlier than usual, though he had slept only a little. His thoughts returned again and again to the conversation by the fire the night before. Tala's words stayed with him, especially the way she spoke about helping others, without expecting recognition, pay. It felt like an answer without being a full answer. He stepped outside and found Tala already awake. She stood near the horse fence, watching the animals quietly. The wind moved gently through her hair, and she seemed peaceful in the open space. Daniel approached slowly so he would not startle her. She greeted him with a small nod, and together they began the morning chores. Tala handled the horses with surprising confidence, calming a restless animal with a soft voice and steady movements. Daniel watched her carefully.
Every action felt familiar, reminding him more and more of the young girl who once guided him through danger.
As the day continued, Tala helped with repairs around the ranch. She worked without complaint, even when tasks became difficult. Daniel noticed that she avoided unnecessary attention, preferring to stay focused on practical work rather than conversation.
Later, while carrying water buckets together, Daniel finally spoke again about the mountains.
He described the cold wind, the fear he felt when he believed he might not survive, and the kindness of the person who stayed beside him during the worst moments. Tala listened silently, her expression serious. After a long pause, she said quietly that she had once found an injured traveler while gathering herbs with her family. She explained that she helped him because her people believed helping others was part of their responsibility. She never expected to meet him again. Daniel felt a wave of emotion rise inside him. He knew then that she was the one. He did not react loudly or dramatically. Instead, he thanked her sincerely. He told her that her actions changed his life, even if she never realized it. Tala seemed unsure how to respond to such gratitude. She said that she simply did what anyone should do, yet her eyes softened slightly, showing that his words meant something to her. As their conversation deepened, trust grew between them. Tala shared parts of her journey after leaving the mountains. She spoke about traveling through different places, facing both kindness and misunderstanding. She had learned to stay strong, but sometimes the weight of constant movement made her feel alone. Daniel understood that feeling well. He told her how the ranch became his way of finding peace after surviving the accident. Working the land gave him purpose, but there were moments when silence felt too heavy. That evening, as they sat near the fire again, Daniel realized that their connection was not just about the past. They understood each other in ways few people could. However, trouble began to approach quietly. A rider arrived from town carrying news that some people were unhappy about Tala staying at the ranch. Rumors had spread quickly, fueled by misunderstanding and fear. Daniel felt frustration but remained calm. He knew reacting with anger would only make things worse. Tala listened to the message without surprise. She admitted that she was used to people doubting her before knowing her. She even suggested leaving to avoid causing problems for Daniel.
But he refused immediately. He told her that she had every right to stay as long as she wished.
The ranch was her safe place now. The next day, several townspeople arrived unexpectedly. Their expressions showed tension, though none spoke aggressively at first. They asked questions about Tala's presence, implying that she did not belong there. Daniel stood firm but respectful. He spoke about honor and fairness, reminding them that judging someone without understanding their story was wrong. Tala remained calm beside him, her quiet strength making it clear she would not be easily shaken. Despite Daniel's efforts, some visitors left unconvinced. The atmosphere felt heavy after they rode away. Tala worried that the situation would continue to grow worse. In the following days, small challenges appeared. Supplies from town arrived late, and whispers followed anyone connected to the ranch. Daniel sensed that someone was deliberately creating distance between them and the community. One afternoon, a sudden problem changed everything. A group of cattle wandered into dangerous terrain near steep hills after being frightened by a storm. Several townspeople attempted to retrieve them but became lost in the rough land. When news reached the ranch, Daniel prepared immediately to help. Tala insisted on coming with him, saying she knew how to read the land and track safely through difficult areas. Together they rode into the hills. Tala guided them confidently, noticing signs others missed: broken branches, disturbed soil, and patterns in the wind.
Her calm leadership helped them locate the lost group quickly.
The rescue was challenging but successful. Tala's knowledge prevented further danger, and her actions impressed everyone present. Some who had doubted her began to see her differently. As they returned to town with the rescued group, people gathered to thank Daniel and Tala. Gratitude replaced suspicion in many faces. Though not everyone changed their opinion immediately, the mood began to shift. Over the next weeks, Tala became more accepted. She helped neighbors when needed, offering kindness without expecting praise. Slowly, barriers broke down. Daniel watched these changes with quiet pride. He realized that recognition of her strength was long overdue. He also noticed how his own life felt fuller with her presence around. Conversations came more easily, laughter returned to the ranch, and the silence no longer felt empty. One evening, as they sat together watching the sunset, Daniel reflected on how a simple tattoo had led him back to the person who once saved him. Tala admitted that she had recognized him earlier but wanted to be sure before revealing the truth. She feared he might not remember her or might see her differently now. He assured her that he would never forget what she did for him. Their bond deepened slowly, built on shared experiences rather than sudden declarations. The ranch became a place where past and present met gently, allowing both of them to grow. As seasons began to change, the town's attitude softened further. People greeted Tala by name, asking for her advice and inviting her into daily life. Daniel felt grateful not only for her safety but for the chance to return the kindness she once gave him. But journey that started with uncertainty transformed into something stronger, a partnership shaped by respect, patience, and understanding. And though challenges would always exist, both of them knew they no longer faced them alone. The days began to pass with a new rhythm at the ranch. What once felt like a quiet and lonely place now carried a sense of shared purpose. Tala moved through the land with growing comfort, learning the small details of ranch life while also bringing her own knowledge and traditions into daily work. Daniel noticed how naturally she blended strength with patience, never forcing herself into the space but slowly becoming part of it. Morning routines became something they shared. They walked through the fields together, checking fences and animals while speaking about simple things: the weather, plans for the day, and small stories from their past. Daniel found himself talking more than he had in years. Tala listened carefully, and when she spoke, her words carried meaning that stayed with him long after the conversation ended. The town's attitude continued to change as time passed. People who once watched from a distance began greeting Tala openly. Some asked for help with horses or advice about navigating difficult terrain. Tala offered assistance without hesitation, treating everyone with the same calm respect she had shown from the beginning. Slowly, trust replaced uncertainty. One afternoon, Daniel rode into town alone to collect supplies. He noticed that conversation stopped when he entered the general store, but this time, the silence felt different. Instead of suspicion, there was curiosity and even admiration. A few townspeople asked about the rescue in the hills, praising Tala's skill and courage.
Daniel answered simply, giving credit to her without exaggeration. He felt proud but also relieved that the community was finally seeing her true character.
When he returned to the ranch, Tala stood near the fence, watching the sunset. The sky glowed with deep shades of orange and red, reflecting in her eyes as she turned toward him. There was a peaceful energy in the air, as if both of them sensed that something important had changed. They sat together near the fire that evening, the flames moving gently in the growing darkness. Daniel felt a quiet need to speak honestly, something he had avoided for many years. He told Tala how he had spent a long time feeling lost after the accident in the mountains. Even though he survived, he often felt disconnected from the world around him, unsure how to move forward. Meeting her again had changed that feeling. It reminded him that kindness and connection still existed, even after difficult experiences. Tala listened carefully, her expression soft but thoughtful.
She shared her own journey as well. After leaving the mountains, she had traveled through many places, never staying long because she felt like an outsider everywhere she went.
Helping others gave her purpose, but she sometimes wondered where she truly belonged. Being at the ranch felt different. For the first time in years, she did not feel like she was only passing through. Daniel understood what she meant. He told her that the ranch had always felt incomplete, as if it was waiting for something or someone to bring life back into it. He did not say more than that, but his meaning was clear. As weeks turned into months, their bond deepened naturally. They learned each other's habits, shared responsibilities, and created new traditions together. The ranch became a place of laughter and quiet companionship rather than silence. Even difficult days felt easier because they faced them side by side. One morning, a group of children from town arrived with their parents to thank Tala for her help during the rescue. They brought small gifts, handmade items, and fresh food. As a sign of appreciation, Tala accepted them with humility, touched by the gesture. Daniel watched the scene with quiet satisfaction, knowing that acceptance had been earned through patience rather than force. Later that day, as they repaired a fence together, Tala asked Daniel if he ever regretted choosing a quiet life away from crowds. He considered the question carefully before answering. He said that solitude once felt necessary, but now he realized that peace did not have to mean isolation. Sometimes peace came from sharing life with someone who understood you. Tala smiled slightly at his words. The moment felt simple, yet meaningful. As seasons changed, the ranch grew stronger under their combined effort.
New crops thrived, animals remained healthy, and neighbors began visiting more often. Daniel noticed how naturally Tala became part of the community without losing her identity.
She stayed true to herself while building connections with others. One evening, during a small gathering at the ranch, several townspeople spoke about how much the place had changed. They said it felt warmer, more welcoming, and full of life. Daniel realized that Tala had not only saved him years ago, but had also helped him rediscover parts of himself he thought were lost. After the guests left, he and Tala walked toward the edge of the property, where the land stretched endlessly toward the horizon. The sky was filled with stars, bright and clear against the dark night. Daniel stopped walking and turned toward her. He thanked her again, not just for saving him in the mountains, but for choosing to stay now. Tala looked at him quietly before replying that she stayed because she felt seen and respected.
She said that meeting him again felt like finding a path she did not know she was searching for.
They stood there for a long moment, the silence comfortable and full of meaning. Neither rushed to define what they had become to each other. Their connection was built slowly, shaped by shared experiences rather than sudden promises. Life continued with its natural ups and downs. There were storms that tested their patience and long days that left them tired, yet each challenge strengthened their partnership. Daniel realized that recognizing the tattoo had not only reminded him of the past, but had opened the door to a future he never imagined.
The story did not end with dramatic changes or grand declarations.
Instead, it settled into something deeper. A quiet understanding that two lives once connected by chance had found each other again when it mattered most. Together they created a home defined by trust, resilience, and mutual respect. As another sunrise spread across the land, Daniel watched Tala walking toward the horses, her steps confident and calm. He felt grateful for the journey that brought them together and for the chance to return the kindness she once gave him. The ranch stood strong against the wide horizon, no longer a place of solitude, but a symbol of second chances and lasting bonds. And as the wind moved gently through the fields, Daniel understood that sometimes the most important stories were not about dramatic endings, but about finding peace and belonging in the quiet moments that followed.